Well, Donald Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, responded in wild Alina Habba fashion to the news that Donald Trump was ordered to pay $83.3 million to E. Jean Carroll for defaming her. This, of course, comes after he was already found liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll, now being hit with this massive figure in damages for defamation. And it's absolutely great to see. But Alina Habba was very unhappy about it and went outside in front of the court to express her outrage. And I'll show this to you. I'll also show you Trump's former lawyer discussing on CNN just how bad of a lawyer Alina Habba is. Pretty brutal commentary. But first, I'll start with this. Alina Habba outside of the courthouse in New York City.
Ask me that question. No, I'm not having any second thoughts about representing President Trump. It is the proudest thing I could ever do. What I am having second thoughts about is the license that I stand here with that the people in there are supposed to have. I have not spoken because I respect my ethics while I'm on trial. But let me now speak about what has happened. I have sat on trial after trial for months in this state, the state of New York. Attorney General Letitia James, and now this. Weeks. Why? Because President Trump is leading in the polls, and now we see what you get in New York. So don't get it twisted, whoever asked me that question. I am so proud to stand with President Trump, but I am not proud to stand with what I saw in that courtroom.
Ms. Hubbard,
I'm not finished. Let me just finish and I'll take questions, please. Before I walked into court, that judge decided that every single defense President Trump had, we were not allowed to raise in front of the jury. It is in writing, and I encourage the journalists, the real journalists, to take the minute to look at his orders. There was no proof. And I couldn't prove that she didn't bring in the dress. There was no DNA. There was no expert. My experts were denied. Two of them were denied to come in.
So essentially, as we talked about previously, she is outraged that Trump couldn't relitigate the allegations of rape in this defamation trial. But there's a very good reason for that. It's already been litigated. There was already a whole trial that decided whether or not Trump raped E. Jean Carroll, and they found that he did. So that can't be brought back into court in this trial, bringing you back to square one. Instead, just the matter of defamation was being decided on. So even though she's pretending to be genuinely upset and there's such a horror, it's not some injustice on the part of the judge. It's rather logical. If you wanted to effectively argue against the allegations of rape, you should have done that when you had a whole trial to do so. Now, we have all already come to the conclusion that Alina Habba is a disaster. She doesn't seem to be an effective lawyer whatsoever, makes a fool of herself constantly in public, and frankly, at this point, who the heck is putting themselves forward to be Trump's lawyer? Likely not the most quality individuals. And here was one of Trump's former lawyers, Tim Parlatore's thoughts on Alina Habba.
You represented him. How do you think he is reacting tonight to an $83.3 million verdict from a jury, not from a judge or Democrats or President Biden, whatever he says? This is from a jury.
It is, and the crazy thing that he's probably thinking about is they awarded $5 million, for the actual alleged assault, or when they found the assault, and then several magnitudes more for talking about it. So I think that's probably something that's probably going through his head right now, is the kind of disparity between the first verdict and the second verdict. When you listen to some of the things Alina Habba says about how they were stripped of the defenses, I mean, that's right, because of the first trial. Had they had a different verdict in the first trial, they might have had a different set of circumstances for the second trial. But once you've tried a case, you're stuck with that conclusion.
She said outside court that she didn't regret representing Trump. But I mean, do you know both of them? Do you think it's the other way around, that he regrets having represented him in this?
I'm glad you asked me that question.
I don't know. I mean, certainly, from my perspective, I would regret having her represent him. I do think that in both of these trials, he was essentially undefended. And I think that it could have turned out differently. I mean, in the second trial, unfortunately, because of the way the first trial went, I don't think anybody could have won the second trial. I think that, once the issues were set up from the first trial, second trial was a loser from the beginning. The question is how big of a loser. And this goes back to, a jury is going to come up with a number. And you have to put on the best presentation to them to get them to come to a lower number. And so all of these, things that she did throughout the process, I don't think helps at all.
Well, what about him?
And that's also a matter of, in the courtroom, the attorney is the one who should be telling the client, how to act, what to be doing, and everything else. And, one thing I always tell my clients is, in the courtroom, there's only 12 opinions that matter, and yours is not one of them. Everything we do has to be guided by, what are those people in that box going to see? What are they going to hear? What are they going to think? How is it going to affect their state of mind? And I don't know whether she properly prepared him and possibly he ignored it, or if she didn't. I don't know.
So at one point there, you heard him say Trump went essentially undefended. Oof, that's brutal. Alina Habba was so bad at defending Trump that it was as if he went undefended, according to Parlatore. Now, I will say, I think it's worse than that. I think, if anything, Alina Habba and Trump's behavior in the courtroom hurt them. I think it would have been better for them to just be undefended, or for Trump to be undefended, put up no defense at all, than what they ended up doing. When you read the back and forth between Trump and the judge, Alina Habba and the judge, when you see Alina Habba's and Trump's, again, rants constantly, I think both the judge and the jury, if anything, were pushed in E. Jean Carroll's direction because of all of that. I mean, the issue on the table, again, in this trial was defamation. And because it was already decided on that Trump sexually abused E. Jean Carroll, the main thing Trump and his lawyers should have done is downplay the significance of the defamation, and also argue that what he said wasn't defamatory, and then show that you won't keep doing all the stuff you've been doing that's been hurting E. Jean Carroll, out in public saying all sorts of things about her that have been decided to be defamation, and sort of at least pretend like you feel bad and you're going to stop. But instead, Alina Habba and Trump came into court showing that unless huge damages, huge consequences were decided on, this defamatory behavior would continue. And so then the amount they decided on was $83.3 million. And it seems to have done something, which is good, because Trump didn't name E. Jean Carroll by name at his last speech when he alluded to what happened in New York. So that's hopeful. At least he is feeling the ramifications of that decision. Maybe he is afraid of more lawsuits from her because of the decision. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership.